I think that the state of the women in the legal community today would have arrived at this point more slowly. People wouldn't have advanced as quickly as they did. And I think that's due to the fact that Delaware's history is that we were the last state in the union to admit women to the bar. And as a result of that, we were way, way later than most states in having women on the bench. And Roxana was the first woman. And as the first woman on the bench, she was someone who was clearly watched, and her success set the tone. She made it possible for those of us who came behind her. And for that, I shall always be grateful. She was a tremendous role model. She was a petite woman, but she was a powerful lady, and she had a tremendous amount of self-confidence, and she knew what she needed to do, and she was very loyal to the rest of the women in the bar. She mentored many women, but more than that, she just created a model that all of us could aspire to emulate. I think what drove Roxana's efforts with regard to cancer care was her own personal experience. She was a problem solver, and she was also a philanthropist. And once she realized how difficult it was for someone with her resources and her intellect to navigate the complexities of cancer care, she realized that she could make a significant contribution, and has made a significant contribution in providing those services to others. There are a couple of life lessons that I learned from Roxana, one before she died and one after. Roxana was always very generous with the women in the bar, as I mentioned before, and she hosted an event at her house every year of her life where young women in the bar and their children would come, and there would be a pool party. And she loved watching them. She loved having them around. She was a gardener, and she used to go around her property on her golf cart, and she just showed everybody how much fun she had. And so she was a great role model in terms of her attitude and her sense of humor. One time she told me a story about a frog. She was a power walker, and she used to walk around Greenville. And everybody who ever drove through that area saw Roxana walking one time or another. And she was always getting people honking at her, and she'd always just wave and keep going. And she told me a story one time when she was trying to get me to look at some frogs that were made by a woman who was doing crafts. And she said, you know, I was walking along and I saw this frog, and I stopped and I looked, and this frog looked up at me and it spoke. And this frog said, I'm a handsome prince, and if you kiss me, I'll turn into this handsome prince. And she said, I paused and I looked, and the frog said, didn't you understand me? I said, if you kiss me, I'll turn into a handsome prince. And she said, you know, I think I'd rather have a talking frog. and I remember that story because it just warms my heart to think about her. And another thing that I learned after she died, some of us went to the house to put together some of the photographs that were in drawers to put together a montage of her life for the memorial service. And going through her drawers was an awesome experience because she never threw anything away. She had the thank you note that I sent to her for speaking at my investiture. And she had notes and clippings and postcards that people had sent her through the years. That's what she valued. And as we put together all these photographs and tried to arrange them chronologically as well as we could, I realized that Roxana was wearing the same gold necklace for 30 years. Roxana just didn't care that much about material things. And getting behind the scenes in the house, it was a beautiful house, but she just didn't care about material things. The cabinets in the kitchen were the original metal cabinets that I'm sure came with the house. And that just didn't matter to her. She spent millions of dollars on philanthropic endeavors, but she just didn't care about whether she had granite countertops. And that inspired me.